and welcome everyone back to the channel for your Supernatural Season 20, the series finale review. Carry on. Yeah, last night was the season finale for the show, man. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say at this point. I've just finished watching the show, and it's, if I'm just being honest, was rough to get through. Not because it was bad, but because it was a rough episode, man. This show wasn't necessarily about a monster of the week. It wasn't about God or Chuck. Same person. It wasn't about Cass. It wasn't about Jack or anyone else. This show was about Sam and about Dean. And the creators, I believe Robert Singer helped with this episode. I don't know if he wrote or whatnot. But Dab and all them made sure that this episode was about those two and just bring in everything full circle with them. So I understand now what they meant by difference between series finale and the season finale for the season. I get that now. Man, it was a heart-wrenching episode. It was... I wouldn't say this was an episode befitting the end of the series, because I still think they could have done things better with the deaths and everything that did occur in this episode. Before I even say anything about that, there is big spoiler warning. I am spoiling this episode, so if you still haven't seen this since last night, I am spoiling it. I'm just gonna give you my honest, raw thoughts about it. I did take notes, but I'm not sure how much I'll refer to notes during this, if I'm just honest. I have watched this show since 2008, I believe. 2008, 2009. During my deployment, actually, is when I really got ramped up and really into the show. And I'm not going to get deep into that because I'll talk more about that next week when I do my retrospective of the series. But it was a show that really connected with me at that point in time. It is a show that I have grown with as a person. So watching this last night, coming to the realization that, because there's parts of this episode where you feel like it's just another episode. It's just doing our monster of the week. But then you're like, wait, we're not doing that again. Like, this is it. This is the finale. There is nothing else after this. And at points, that's a hard pill to swallow. And when you're watching it, you just feel... You just feel like you don't know what else to do. You just feel like, wow, I can't believe this is actually... It finally hit me. Like, there's no more Sam and Dean Winchester. And when you see the episode, there's not going to be a movie. Even though I know people want that. There will be no movie for this series. It's just going to be them going on with their lives, doing whatever they're going to do with other shows. Like, Jared will have Walker, and Jensen will be doing The Boys season 3, and hopefully 4 if it works out well for him. But this show paid homage to a lot of different things. Wes Craven was brought up during the show. Singer and Kripke, they, nod to them when they used it as their alias, their last gig, man, the Winchesters. It's hard to believe that this is actually over. I know I've ragged on the show a lot the last several weeks, but now that it's actually over, I don't know, it's bittersweet, maybe. It's a bittersweet thing. Um, so as far as the episode goes, though, it was it was a good episode if you take it as just this. You don't take into account anything else with the season. You just put this episode in a bubble by itself, which is I think was the intention to give us a monster hunt of the week, give us a cameo for a character that no one really cared about. Let's be real. Um, but they tried to give us what they could with this, and then the rest of the episode was the fallout from what happens with the death. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start actually reviewing this episode. And I'll give more thoughts as I go through it. My brain is a jumbled mess right now, if I'm being completely honest. And I won't try to keep this long winded. So if I am, I apologize. But again, last warning, full spoilers for the series finale of Supernatural. So the first thing that stuck out to me, it kind of bummed me out, and I do use it in the episode, but there was no "Carry On My Wayward Son" at the beginning of the episode. It's not a big deal. It's just something we're used to with finales for the show. They didn't do it last week with the quote unquote season finale, and then they didn't do it today either. And being honest, it kind of bugged me. Not a big deal, but they just play a regular old song to start the episode. Dean wakes up, music, and he's hugging the dog that they rescued from last week, and Sam is, he's out doing some running, just looking off in the water, and they're just doing normal stuff. Sam's making his bed all nice. Dean just kind of throws it together. They're feeding, Dean feeds the dog bacon, laundry, etc., stuff like that. And you see Dean looking at the computer. Sam walks up, nothing, nothing, no flags, nothing. Did you find anything? And he's like, Dean's not really looking. And Dean's like, oh, I found something. They cut to the intro of the show. So they end up going to a pie eating contest, actually. Dean gets out of the car. He's like, it's my destiny. And Dean goes to get pie, and Sam's just sitting there, and Dean comes back with all this pie, and he's like, don't be sad, Sam. I'm not sad, Sam. I'm just thinking of Cass and Jack, and if they were here, and, what would they be doing? And Dean's just kind of like, they're not, and I understand, but, if we, don't keep moving on, doing our thing, our sacrifice is for nothing. It's for nothing. So Dean, cheers him up. He's like, now, eat pie. And Sam grabs the pie and puts it in Dean's face. So you got a nice little brotherly moment there. Then we cut to some family at home. The mom's sending the kids to bed. The doorbell rings, and the dad goes to answer it. It's like, it must be kids. There's no one there. And he gets stabbed straight through the chest. The mom freaks out, runs upstairs with the kids, and hides them. And these people kill her, and then they're looking for the kids, and they end up dragging the kids out of the room. Scary scene. Nope, just kids gone. So Sam and Dean, they show up to investigate it, and they go by the aliases of Singer and Kripke, obviously a nod to Robert Singer and to Eric Kripke, who was the creator of the show. That was a nice little touch. So they get the details. They said the mom was left alive, but her tongue was taken out, so she drew a face, and the boys actually recognize it. It turns out John had did a case similar to this back in, I think this is 86 or 87, that had very similar situation, kids being taken, never to be found again. And he's like, I know what this is. It's mines. Evil mines. And Sam's like, or vampires. He's like, vamp mines. So Dean being Dean, and the whole thing of this episode, is they're finally free. They can do what they want. They're no longer in control of Chuck. And, they don't really talk about that much. Really, they're just kind of doing their thing. Like, it's clear that they know they're free, but it's never really discussed. So they're going to Ohio, which is funny because the plates are Ohio. I get another nod to the show with the plates always being from Ohio. They talked about Akron and what is it? Akron and Cleveland and I don't know. They mentioned a couple places. So we see the boys. They show up to this building after a van pulls up. Well, you don't see them go anywhere. They get the we see the boys show up after this van pulls up, and they kill one vamp. Dean cuts its head off, and they shoot the other one. So Yosu commercial. They come back. They unmask the one vampire, and it speaks like, not a mine, says Dean. They ask about the kids and where they took them, and the vamp basically tells them to go to hell. They said, cool, we can make this quick. He's like, well, if I tell you, you let me go. He's like, it's not this type of situation. We can kill you. Situation. We can kill you fast. And Dean and Sam pulls out a small knife, or we can kill you really slow. And they talk about how tedious it would be and all the pain. And so the vampire cracks and says, we didn't kill the kids. We just harvest them. We juice them, is how he put it. And he tells them where they are. So here's where the tear jerkers are going to begin. Here's where the spoilers coming in. And if you haven't already seen this, spoilers. I'm saying it again. Spoilers. So they go inside where they pull up. Dean wants to use the ninja knife, the ninja blade. He's still wanting to use that. And Sam's like, no. After seeing what happens, you're like, fuck, Sam, come on, man. So fine, I'll use the machete. So they go in and they find the kids and they go to leave. They end up being blocked off by those masked vampires. So they have the kids run off through a side door, and they begin to fight. Like a little sword fight. Sam gets knocked out by one of the vampires, and the other two take down Dean. Well, then we get the reveal of our final cameo of the season as Jenny, who was the vampire from the second to last episode in season 1. She was the one who got turned by the one vampire who wanted the cult. She's not the leader, but she called dibs. And she gets her head hacked off. She was there for, 5 seconds. So thanks for coming in, man. You were a waste of time. So they can keep fighting. They keep fighting them vampires, and you see Dean kind of go by this one wall, and there's like this giant nail sticking out, but it's been like sawed off, and it's just almost like a spike. And you see like, oh, okay, maybe that's how Dean's going to kill this thing. Instead, Dean gets rammed into it, and it's subtle, and it's not really a big thing. Dean holds off the other one. Sam kills it. Sam's like, all right, let's go find these kids, get them to safety. And Dean's like, yeah, I'm not going nowhere. And he's immediately acting odd. You'd have to assume this thing punctured his heart or something, right? It's not really specified. And this becomes one of the most heart-wrenching scenes of this series. More so than All Hope Breaks Loose Part 1 when Sam dies. More than when Dean goes to hell. Like, this is a rough scene. Sam's trying to pull Dean off. He's like, I'll go get the kit. And you can tell he's bleeding bad, but Dean asks Sam, just stay with me. He says, I need you to take those kids. I need you to get them to safety. And Sam's like, no, we will do it. And he's like, no, I'm not going nowhere, man. He's like, and you can tell Dean knows this is it for him. And you can tell he's in pain. He says, I always knew I'd go this way, family business. And Sam's just like, no. He's like, it's okay. It's okay. Sam's like, I can bring you back. He's like, no, we know where that leads. Gotta let this be. And he tells Sam, he tells him I'm fading fast. There's a few things I need to tell you. He tells him how proud he was of Sam and how he looked up to him, and how, even when they were kids, when he stood up to Dad, he looked up to him then because, he could never do that himself. And he tells him, when he was in school and he went to go get him, and Sam's like, white lady in white. And Sam's like, and Dean's like, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I'm having a hard time talking. He says that he stood outside his door for hours because he was afraid Sam was going to tell him to get lost or get dead, and he didn't know how he would be able to take that because at the end of the day, it was always about them. He he begs Sam to, you know, just Sam begs him to not leave, because he tells Sam, you know, I love you, you know, I love you so much. Like that's the first time you've actually heard Dean say that he loved Sam like that. And Sam's like, you know, please don't leave me. He's like, I can't do this alone. Playing off of Dean and Sam back in the pilot episode. And Dean tells him, you know, yeah, you can. And he's like, but I don't want to. He says, Sam, I need you to promise me. I need you to tell me it's okay. And he just keeps repeating it. And Sam takes him by the hand. He nods. He said, and kudos to Jared, right? Kudos to Jared in this scene, and Jensen too, for really conveying the I'm hurt, I don't know what I'm going to do, like scared but also trying to be brave. Sam tells him it's okay. He says it's okay, you can go now. And Dean takes his other hand and he puts it over his hand, and he just goes limp. And you see the guttural crying of Sam, like knowing that that's it. So we cut to the bunker, and Sam's there with the dog. Well, no, he's actually giving Dean his hunter's funeral, and he lights him, burns his bones. And then he's back at the bunker, his alarm's going off, and you just see Sam's got no motivation. He's spacey, you know, the dog's trying to comfort him. And this is when it really starts to hit me in the episode, like, oh my God. Like, it really, the emotions hit me when you see Sam just not being Sam. And he goes into Dean's room, and he's looking around, and the dog's there, and he's talking to the dog, you know, I know. He's like, me too. And Dean's phone starts going off, and you see him going through all the Dean's different phones, and he answers Dean's other phone. And this guy asks for Agent Bon Jovi. Call back to season 3 when Dean says Bon Jovi's okay, you know, on occasion. And Sam says, yeah, I'm Agent Bon Jovi. And he kind of spaces, and the guy asks if he's still. He said, yeah, I'm here. And the guy says, you know, we've had some bodies starting to pile up, and Donna recommended him. And Sam says, I'm coming. So we see Sam leaving the bunker with his bag and the dog. And he takes a look. And you can tell this is like him taking one last look in the bunker. Almost like to say goodbye to the bunker. And he shuts everything off. And he leaves. So we come back from commercial. And you see the body of Dean burning again and the smoke coming up. But this time you go with Dean and he's in heaven. And you know he's in heaven because he says, oh, I made it to heaven. And then Bobby's there. And at first Dean's like, oh, what memory is this? And he's like, this ain't a memory. He's like, yes, it is. Last time I checked, you were, you know, in heaven's locked up. He's like, I was. But now I'm not. So we finally, on the last episode, get our Bobby back. We get our Bobby in heaven with Dean. And he explains to Dean that Jack came to heaven and he fixed things and he freed him and he tore down all the walls where it's not memories anymore that you're living in, that it's what heaven should always have been, you know, everyone together, you know, happy and at peace. And he tells him, you know, Rufus is, you know, down this way, and with Aretha, thought she'd have better taste. He says, you know, your mom and your dad, John and Mary, are down yonder over there. And they're drinking a beer. And Dean's like, so Jack did all this. He's like, he had some help. And he tells him Cass helped him. So we know Cass got out of the empty. Jack went and got him. And they're off in wherever together, father and son, basically. Um, which I wish they had Cass show up in heaven to help explain this with Bobby. You don't have to have Jack. Jack could be off doing whatever, but I wish Cass had at least been there in heaven. But it's fine. It's okay. Um, Dean's like, it's almost perfect. And he's like, he'll be here. And he says, time here is different. He says, you got all the time in the world. Anything you can want and needs, all here is like, so what do you want to do? And Dean talks about the beers drinking, like the one that he had with his dad. He says he's going to go for a drive. And Dean sees Baby, walks up to it, and you notice they're in front of Harvell's. If you don't know what Harvell's is, that was the bar from season 2. That was Ellen and Joe's place. Wish we could have seen them, but I understand the pandemic probably kept them from doing a lot of things they wanted to do. So he gets in the car, and he turns it on, and finally, Carry On plays on. And he smiles, and he drives off. And we get this montage going back and forth between Dean and Sam. Dean in heaven, driving the car, and Sam on Earth, living his life. We see a kid with the name Dean on the front of his overalls, and Sam with him. So we know now Sam's got a kid. We see him playing ball with him when he's a little older. We see what I assume is supposed to be Eileen in the background. They at least made the woman look like Eileen, but it's not confirmed, right? And you see him helping with homework. He's wearing glasses, so he's getting older. And you see him, they show him getting into the Impala. He pulls the cover off. An homage to Dean pulling it off in season 6 when he first decided to go hunting again with Sam. And he's got this bad wig on and bad makeup, but it's fine. I let it go. It's even worse later when he's old. But he's in there in the car and he's getting emotional. And then we're back to Dean driving the Impala, happy, and he's just riding off. And then they cut to Sam in a hospital bed at home, hooked up to machines, a heart monitor. And you see his son, Dean, he's all grown up, and he sits next to him. And he repeats the lines that Sam said to Dean when he was dying. He says, "Dad, it's okay. You can go now." And they play another version of Carry On by this female. And it's beautifully done. It's a really beautiful, and it's a much slower, slowed down version. I'm trying not to get emotional. And I wouldn't think I would over a show, but I am. So I apologize now for being emotional. So Sam passes away. And then we're back with Dean in heaven, and he pulls up on this bridge, and he gets out, and he's looking around, and you see he's at peace, and he has this look, and he's like, "Hey, Sammy." And then there's Sam with a smile on his face, and they're finally back together. They're in heaven. And they just hug. They don't even say anything. You can just tell they're finally at peace. The Winchesters doing what they did for these entire 15 years. They finally sit, or they don't sit, they walk up to the edge of the bridge and they just smile and they just look off. And then the camera really just pans away. And I gotta be honest, it's probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire 15th season. It's just them looking off at peace. So it cuts, directed by, based on characters. But then it cuts back to Jared and Jensen thanking the fans for everything, for the 15 years and all that stuff. And then with the crew, they wave goodbye, and that's how the series ends. Again, I don't think this was the best series finale a show has ever had. Hell, it's not even a great season finale, but it did what I think the job was that they just wanted to send off with finality with the brothers, because you knew if both of them were alive, or one of them was or you figured if one of them were alive, they'd try to figure their one back. Maybe Sam, during that time before he got married, did. And I don't know if him and his son went hunting, but you see the house, you know he really was trying to make sure that his brother was remembered, that his mom and his dad were remembered, all that stuff. And I don't know, maybe he explained it to his son. Now, I'm assuming he was with Eileen. But I feel like this show ended in the best possible way that it could have, with the pandemic. And it was simple. It wasn't nothing extraordinary where it left you on this big cliffhanger. Because I've seen series finales where it left you on a cliffhanger and you're like, oh my God, what? I need to know what happens next. No, this gave you finality with the series. They're gone. They're in heaven. They could see their family. They could see Bobby. Everyone they've ever lost who's in heaven, they can just go and see. Like, they get a fresh start in the afterlife with each other to be happy and free. And I'm sure they'll see Cass when they're in heaven, right? And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm emotional, but this show has been with me, for 12 years. I've watched the show. It was on 3 years before that. So I've been with this show for the better part of its run. And it was hard. It was hard to say goodbye. When they were telling us thank you, it felt like they were speaking to each and every one of us. I'm glad that they broke character for the show to say goodbye to everybody. I think that was a good way to be like, this is your final moments with us saying thank you. And them allowing the cast, whoever was there, and the crew to be a part of that. Because the crew was as much a part of the show as the actors. And yeah, I've gave Dab a lot of crap, but I think this was a good way to end the show. Not my favorite episode ever. I'll talk about that next week, but I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but this is tough. This is tough for me. And you can laugh at me for crying in the comments. I'll take one at your expense, because I know I could use a laugh right now. So that was it. That was it. That was the show. I'm sorry, I can't talk. That was the series, man. That was the end of it. That was Supernatural in a nutshell. I will miss these characters. I'm going to. And I'll talk, like I said, I'm going to talk more. Next week, I'm going to do a retrospective. It'll be the same time, Friday, same time at 5 p.m. I don't know how long it's going to be, or if I'll have anyone with me, or if it'll just be me and the microphone until I'm done talking. But I want to thank everyone who has joined me with these reviews over the last 7 weeks. Join me next week. Join me next week for that retrospective of the series. I would love to hear your comments today. If you've watched this, how did it make you feel? What's your feelings on the show? Any comments I get about the show, about your feelings, I am going to read next week. I am going to read next week during the retrospective, because I really want it to be an involved thing with everybody. So, I'll check it in a couple of days. Any comments? If you don't leave no comments, it's fine. I don't expect anyone to, but just tell me what you think. I'll read any Twitter, I'll read comments from people on Twitter and Facebook and everything. Just, how everyone felt. Just let me know. But that's it for me, man. I don't know what else to say, but thank you, Supernatural. Honestly, thank you. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm not going to do my usual outro. Just remember, love each other, and just keep safe, guys. Talk to you later.